2021 is already starting off with a bang. Here to talk about how to talk about the truth and how to make 2021 the year of truth is Dr. Jennifer Roback Morse. Stay tuned.
Lumen Patriarcharum.
Welcome back, everybody. The Light of the Patriarchs. A little bit different setting today. We actually haven't recorded an episode in a little bit, so we're really excited to be recording this episode with Dr. Jennifer Roback Morse. This is a re-recording. We had some tech issues the first time around, but I'm really grateful that she's able to make it back. Dr. Morse is the founder of the Ruth Institute, a global nonprofit organization that defends the family at home and in the public square and equips others to do the same. She is passionate about equipping family advocates with the knowledge and confidence to defend the family at home and in the public square. Dr. Morse was a campaign spokeswoman for California's winning Proposition 8 campaign defining marriage as the union of a man and a woman. She has authored or co-authored 5 books and spoken around the globe on marriage, family, and human sexuality. Her work has been translated into Spanish, Chinese, Korean, Polish, and Czechese. I believe I spoke that right. The native language of the Micronesian islands. Her newest books are The Sexual Revolution and Its Victims and 101 Tips for Marrying the Right Person. She earned her PhD at the University of Rochester and taught economics at Yale and George Mason Universities. I want to welcome Dr. Jennifer Roback Morse back to the show. Hello, doctor. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks. And listen, I have another book that's not on that list that you mentioned, which is called The Sexual State: How Elite Ideologies Are Destroying Lives and How the Church Was Right All Along.
Oh, wow. Right on. Very good.
Right on. And I dig it that you guys are unapologetic patriarchs. Okay. Because, we have so many young people going smash the patriarchy and whatnot. And I'm like, no, actually, we need patriarchs. We need fathers, and it's the wrong kind of man. And this broad brush that people paint with is really super destructive. So I'm very happy to see St. Joseph in the background.
Oh, right on. Very good.
And other patriarchs.
Yeah, I know, right? You can't say that anymore. You get kicked off of YouTube, right? So,
yeah, but I do.
No,
I do.
I get away
with all kinds of stuff. I don't know how I get away with this stuff. I should have been kicked off a long time ago, but here we are.
Hey, that's all right. Here we are. Yeah, that's the goal of our apostolate is to just try to get men to live as intentional Catholic men, just like St. Joseph. Every moment of his was intentional. So right. Absolutely. So, Dr. Jennifer Roback Morse, I have you on here because you wrote a very interesting article that was published not only on your website, the Ruth Institute, but also on National Catholic Register. And that's actually where I saw it. And I just want to read a couple lines to everybody real fast. This will set the mood of this article. But this article is astounding. I read this back on the beginning of the year, and I just had to have you on. So it says right here, just a couple lines real quick. It says, we are afraid. I'm sorry, my bad. I started at the wrong spot. It says the year 2020 was tough, right? That's no joke. Many of us have been joking about how great it would be when 2020 ended and we could start fresh again. But in our hearts, we knew that 2021 is not likely to be any better. We are afraid to face this. We feel that we feel as if we are staring into an abyss. We can't figure out what to do, so we do nothing. We scare ourselves even more. Therefore, let us face our fear. The world we once knew is gone, and that world is not coming back.
Yep. That's
famous
me.
last
I
words.
said that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I agree 100%. And that's another reason why I really, I just had to have you on to talk about that. So, tell me a little bit about your inspiration for this article and kind of what, just what started the inspiration for writing that article?
Yeah. Well, I write all the time and I talk all the time. And, I'm thinking about issues of culture and marriage and family. I mean, my main portfolio, of course, is defending marriage and family. And I've been involved in that in one way or another for 20 years now. And when you're engaged in that kind of work, you realize that things really are going downhill. We're not in touch with reality. our culture is not in touch with reality. The people who realize that something's wrong and should be done don't know what to do, and so people feel overwhelmed. People have a tendency to do nothing except sit around and complain, which drives me completely crazy. I mean, what a pointless activity. I'm pretty sure that's not your vocation, okay, people? I mean, I'm just going to say, bitching and moaning is not a valid vocation, okay? That's all.
Right on.
you
Absolutely.
know, but we get demoralized, and
Mhm.
and honestly, if you think about it, the war against the family has been one continuous psychological operation. It's a psyop. We're in the middle of a giant psyop, and as soon as you realize that, then a lot of things fall into place, and then you realize you have no right to go scaring your neighbor and talking about how terrible everything is and how it's all going downhill. Okay, and since I wrote the article, when I wrote the article, we didn't know who was going to be president, and we
Yeah.
didn't know how all of that was going to play out. And we hadn't seen all the revelations of election irregularity and what the Supreme Court did and didn't do, and all the suspicions that all that created. We didn't know any of that, but you could pretty well see that most of the major institutions in society, people don't trust anymore. I mean, you can't trust what comes out of them, and so therefore we really are in uncharted territory. So, our democracy isn't what it used to be. Our church isn't what it used to be. Science isn't what it used to be. The media is hopeless.
Oh goodness, yeah.
The public health establishment has pretty much disgraced itself, we could say. So people don't know what to believe, and therefore people are, spinning all kinds of things because they want to hang on to something. So when I say the world we once knew is gone, what I'm talking about is the world where you could get up in the morning and be pretty sure what was going to, what the world was going to look like at the end of the day. That's gone. Okay. I mean, we have a cultural and social hurricane, that has come through, wiped everything out. And, we're sick, and there are bad guys roaming through town trying to loot everybody. It's the way I look at it.
It would seem to me too that the bad guys aren't even trying to hide it anymore. That's the
You know?
crazy thing is that
Well,
they're not even trying anymore.
They're confident. They feel confident. They don't. They feel like they have enough power that they don't have to. They don't have to hide it. Number one, and number two, their contempt for the rest of us is so apparent and transparent. They feel they don't have to worry about that anymore. And that, you can say what you like about Donald Trump, but the one thing Donald Trump did is he actually, I think, sincerely cared about the deplorables. The deplorables were his people. And the ruling class doesn't realize how much of a role they played in creating Trump and the Trump voter.
Oh, absolutely.
They just have they're completely oblivious. So they're not really living in truth. They're living in untruth, but they have a lot of power. And so the only thing we have really is truth. And, by golly, we better get a grip on it and stop being ashamed of it or afraid of it, and use it as God means for us to use it, which is to defend the weak and to build a civilization of love. That's what we're supposed to be doing, and that doesn't change no matter how bad the material conditions around us become. That mission of every baptized Catholic doesn't go away,
No, it does not, and you're absolutely right about that. In this article, you talked about the every 500 years or so, right? There's a shakeup.
Yeah.
Right. There's a shakeup, and that we are going through right now. This shakeup. Can you go a little bit into detail about these different shakeups and how they've kind of, you briefly talked about it in the article, but
right. So you look 500 years ago and what was going on. The New World had been discovered. Okay, so that shakes everybody's brain apart. They had no idea there was anything out there. And there are
wait, the
people out
world's
there.
not flat.
Yeah. Well, they knew the world wasn't.
I know.
But they had no idea how big it was, and they
Mhm.
had no idea how big it was, and they had no idea who all was out there, and so on and so forth. So there's all that, and all the kind of disruption of that. And then, of course, the Protestant Reformation and all of the things that cascaded out of the Reformation, the splintering of Christendom, the reorganization of state versus church. For a long time, state and church had been in conflict and tension with each other throughout the whole Middle Ages. That's what the whole story is tension between church and state. But by the end of the Reformation, by the time the dust had settled, all of the lands of the monasteries had fallen into the hands of the state. And whether it was a Catholic country or a Protestant country, the state, whether it was a king or a parliament, the state was controlling the monastic lands, and they were giving them away to their friends. Like Downton Abbey. Think about that program, Downton Abbey. Where the heck does Downton Abbey come from? Well, they stole it. They stole it in the 1500s or whatever, no doubt.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly, but that somebody would be living in something called an abbey and nobody batting an eye. That's what happened there. And so the provision for the poor that the abbeys and monasteries had always done. Once King Henry VIII took all of that, gave it away to his friends who fought for him. Those people, those nobles who fought for Henry, they were never going to change their mind. There's no religious argument that's going to cause them to give up all that land and all the stuff they got. He pretty much bought them into his realm, and then all the provision for the poor that the monks had done, all of that went away. Because those guys, you can complain that the monks didn't do enough, but they sure as heck did a lot more than the guys who took their stuff. Afterwards there was nothing. Right? Yeah. So many things were shaken up. And what we know about that period of time is that the Catholic Church had problems that had to be addressed, and that most of those problems, the significant problems, were addressed. And in some respects, the church came back bigger and stronger than ever. And the New World, of course, is a whole part of that. Our Lady of Guadalupe, and and all of that. Her filling up the church with all these people from the New World. That's an amazing part of the Catholic story of that era. But there's no reason that this crisis that we're going through now cannot be our moment also. And we need to think in those terms. We need to stop thinking about our creature comforts and what we're used to, and how unfair people are being. They're being unfair. There's a lot of garbage going on. That's right. But how are we going to deal with it? That's the real ultimate issue, And if we focus on that, and it wasn't just kings and monks and bishops and popes who solved the problems. In the Reformation era, there were a lot of saints who were, not particularly special people, or who rose out of, peculiar circumstances and stuff like that. The ordinary circumstances. A lot of people rose to the occasion, and from many professions, many walks of life, people rose to the occasion to try to do something constructive. And I think that's the attitude that we have to take. And throughout all of that, telling the truth is the key point. Our age is just so filled with lies and propaganda and half-truth and all the rest of it. That's got to stop, people. That's got to stop,
We're a hot mess, that's for sure. We are
Yeah.
So I want to touch on that truth in just a minute, but something you just said totally hit me. Back then, we often like to think about, priests and bishops and all these people taking care of these things for us, right? Well, we're in a time right now where there's priests fighting against priests and bishops against bishops because they can't figure out what the heck is going on half the time. And so us is and one thing that, people like to, there's this whole debate about Vatican II now and whether or not, we need to go back and look at it, whether you need to scrap the whole thing, all that jazz, right? But one thing Vatican did do is allowed lay people to start stepping up into these roles. And it allows us to start saying, hey, whoa, wait a minute, something's wrong here and we need to do something about it.
That's right.
It gave the layperson a lot more power than had previously been there. So we really don't have any excuse. And it takes the ordinary, God uses the ordinary all the time. King David, he was the runt, you know what I mean? And he destroyed Goliath. So, yeah, I like that point right there. A lot of people, are just, what do I do? What do I do? What do we do? What do we do? Somebody, I love the phrase, somebody just do something.
Yes.
That's what happens. We sit back and we relax and Then we just wait and we're like, okay, somebody just do something, please. And then something happens and then we're like, I don't like that.
Yeah,
well,
right,
why
right,
didn't
right.
you do something?
You know what? Let me tell you something. As somebody who actually does do stuff, I get really tired of that. People send me an email, Dr. Morse, why don't you do this? I'm like, great idea. You can run that program. That'll be great. And then I never hear from them again, oddly enough.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
And I think people do underestimate, when we're sitting around saying, why doesn't father do something? Why doesn't the bishop do this or that?
Yeah.
A lot of times we underestimate the difficulty of actually getting something done.
Of course.
It's a lot easier to kibitz from the sideline, than to actually.
Monday. What's that? The Monday morning quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Your team didn't do so well, so the next day you're just complaining about it.
Yes.
Trust me, I'm a Seahawks fan, and I watched that Super Bowl. Oh my gosh! Oh geez, for Russell threw the pick right at the line. Of course, there's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking about that, but
that's right.
Anyway,
yeah, that's right.
You can't do that. Yeah. No, that is a very difficult, and it's a lot harder said than done, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But the point is, I'm going to tell you a little story that I think your listeners will resonate with. At the Ruth Institute, we have an event every year called the Summit for Survivors of the Sexual Revolution. And our premise of this event is that we want to give a platform to people who have suffered from the sexual revolution and who have in some way recovered and who are doing something constructive about it. So we always have people who can be witnesses, when we call them witnesses, who can say, this is what I did, or this is what happened to me. And it didn't turn out the way it did on TV, oddly enough, that kind of thing. It's our counter to the propaganda, right? It's to give those people a platform. So we have witnesses, and then we have experts in various fields, on the various topics that we talk about. But then we also always have activists. And we give an award to the activist of the year. We pick out somebody who's getting something done and we honor them. So a couple years ago, we honored this guy named Jeff Morgan from Texas, whom you've never heard of probably. Jeff's an evangelical, and he's big on divorce reform. His wife divorced him, and as a result of, losing that marriage, he lost contact with his children, he lost contact with grandchildren, the whole sequence of things that flows from an unwanted divorce, right? And so, he one time went to an event and he was working for Rick Santorum, Senator Rick Santorum. When Santorum was running for president, Jeff was there and everything. And Jeff starts telling his story, and Senator Santorum said to him, listen, man, just do something. Just do something. It doesn't matter what you do, but do something, And so Jeff goes around with a video camera and he either videos events that are happening or he does video interviews with people. And so he's got this whole library full of people that he's talked to or interviewed or whatever. And since we gave him that award, I'm telling you, he's just such a go-getter. Between his library of videos and his activism in the Texas state legislature, there's a possibility of serious divorce reform in Texas. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's one of these things that we kind of keep an eye on it, because we don't do lobbying and stuff. The Ruth Institute, not a lobbying organization, but we try to inspire people like Jeff, that this is what would be sensible, and you're right. You're right, and here are the arguments for why you're right, and you can be confident. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of our role. But my message to your men here is, guys, do something. It doesn't even matter what it is, just do something. Way better than nothing.
Yeah, that's true. Instead of somebody else doing something, you got to do it, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many things out there that we can. A lot of people get hung up too, and I get frustrated myself. Just you read the news for 5 seconds, and you're like, "There's 20 million different things going on at one time." For some reason now, it's just there's so much more going on, and I think sometimes we're naive and think that this is the only time all these things have been going on for decades, if not centuries. It's just that we didn't have the news and the outlets to be able to tell us this stuff is going on. But there's so many things going on at one time that people can get overwhelmed and say, well, what do I do? Like, which one do I pick? There's so many different things. And like you said, if you're passionate about something, get out there and do something about that one thing.
That's right.
If we could focus just a little bit of energy on one thing, you know what I mean?
Yes. Oh, listen, it's a daily problem at the Ruth Institute. Literally a daily problem, because things come up, and all we deal with is the family. We deal with the family and sexual issues. We don't deal with COVID. We don't deal with elections. We don't deal with foreign policy. There's all kinds of stuff that we don't deal with. So we have to, somebody will bring up a topic, and nope, we can't do that. Nope, we can't do that. Or people will ask you for something. We have a meeting a staff meeting once a week of our what we call the messaging team. My PR guy, the guy who writes our press releases, and the YouTube channel manager, and the producer of the Dr. J show. The bunch of us get together and, okay, what are we going to talk about this week? And we put out probably at least two press releases per week consistently. And we're consistently having to pare away things that we don't talk about. All these topics that we just don't have the bandwidth to do it. But because we do stay focused, people know what to expect from us. Something's going on that is in our wheelhouse, and they come to us. Well, we have some bandwidth left over to deal with it, but it is a target-rich environment. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys probably have your hands full now, especially, well, but even before and guys, if you guys are watching this, the Equality Act is passed. And so the Ruth Institute, you guys are going to have, oh man, what a nightmare mess that is. And a lot of people don't understand what that does.
So what people need to understand, the brief version of the Equality Act is, first of all, I hope all your fellows have read 1984. Okay. The book 1984. And you need to have a copy. You need to have a physical copy of this book on your shelf. You don't want it on your Kindle, because, Amazon can take it off your Kindle. Okay. They can take it off your Kindle. So you need to own a copy of this book, because in there they talk about the main character works for the Ministry of Truth, and they change words. His job is to throw parts of history down the memory hole, literally down the memory hole.
History. Yep.
Right. And so things are misnamed in order to propagandize people. So this act, the reason I'm bringing this up, the Equality Act is the Inequality Act. Okay. Yeah, when you see something labeled like that, it's like, oh my gosh, what are they pushing?
Yeah, and people think, and I know a lot of Catholics are getting caught up into it as well, because we just think that it's something that's so beautiful and like, it's equality. Yeah, I know, right?
Equality.
I know, right? I don't want to be against that. And
it's so insidious. It's what, Matt, we just opened a resource center at the Ruth Institute, an online resource center. We call it the Resource Center on Censorship and Propaganda. And we show people how to analyze propaganda, why there is so much of it, how you pick it apart. We got a ton of interviews where I sit down. Well, I shouldn't say a ton. When we started the Dr. J show a year and a half ago, among those people that I interview are academics who will say, okay, this study that y'all just heard about, it's garbage.
Oh, wow.
And here's why, that kind of thing. So we have a lot of that type of material over there. I mean, that's a full-time job, just keeping up with the propaganda. But anyway, why? The Equality Act, the misnamed Equality Act. What they're trying to say is they want to treat equally. As soon as somebody says equal, we want everything to be equal. You've got to ask yourself, who is going to be equal to whom? And for what purpose? They never answer that question, right? That's always kind of floating out there, So what the Inequality Act actually does is to add sexual orientation and gender identity into the anti-discrimination statutes. That's basically what it does. And so, therefore, a man who says he's a woman gets to be treated as a woman, simply because he says he's a woman. Now, how you can have a legal system, a legally protected class that you define yourself into, there's no objective definition of a transgender person. There is literally no objective definition. For that matter, there's no objective, scientifically verifiable definition of the word gay. Okay, that is not defined in law. I mean, I could sit here and tell you I'm a lesbian, and I don't know how you'd disprove it. How would anyone disprove that? If I decided, it was advantageous to me to say I'm a lesbian. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, there's no test. There's
no test. There's no medical test. There's no, really. So that's a big problem right there. Big problem. but moreover, this is the act that is going to destroy women's sports, because mediocre male athletes are basically walking away with all of the girls' trophies. They're calling themselves girls, and you could see this coming. You could see this. I can remember when we were debating gay marriage. I can remember thinking to myself, people can say they're gay. People can enter into a gay union for any reason they want. Two guys can get married because they're in the military and they want off-base married housing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to prove they're gay. They just for whatever reason, and you think, well, a person who's not gay isn't going to want to do that because there's stigma attached to it. And I'm thinking to myself, the stigma is going to go away. That's part of the package, is to make all the stigma go away.
Yeah.
So now with trans athletes, when you were a boy, you would have been embarrassed to run a race against a bunch of girls and win and say, ha ha, I'm the winner.
Yeah,
it'd be ridiculous.
Where's your pride? Gosh almighty.
But by the same logic, all that male pride is going away. The thing in a man that says, of course I'm not going to get in a contest with a woman and win. What is wrong with you? That's all considered patriarchal, toxic masculinity, and so all that, that's been spooked out of all you guys, right? And so some guys are going to be like, hey, I want the trophy, whatever. I don't care if I beat a bunch of girls,
Oh, yeah.
but that's where we are. But that's where we are.
A funny thing about that too is I don't see too many trans men competing in men's sports.
No, oddly enough, no.
Oddly enough, right?
The psychology, Matt, is very different. And see, this is another thing that is really harmful, that would be so good for your listeners to tune into. A lot of times people use these terms, the term gay, or the term lesbian, or the term trans, they'll use these terms, and then there'll be kind of a whole propaganda backstory about what that means, about who that is. You were born that way, and he was born that way, she was born that way, the trans person was born that way. There's a whole kind of mythology around what each of those words mean. The reality is that there are people call themselves by a different sex for a whole variety of reasons. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. There's a whole, and the psychology for men is different from the psychology for women, for little girls versus little boys, little girls versus adult women, and so on and so forth. One of the biggest trends right now in this whole area is teenage girls deciding that they're really boys. Okay. And these are, a lot of times they get into it, and there's actually a name for it. It's called rapid onset gender dysphoria. Rapid onset gender dysphoria. What that means is that this is a girl who never had the slightest doubt that she was a girl, but after a while, sometimes from a peer group, sometimes an online peer group, internet chat rooms, they're going through whatever they're going through, and they come to the conclusion that really, truly, they're a boy, and this would solve all their problems. And sometimes it's, I interviewed a girl who was a woman. She's a grown woman now, but she was sexually assaulted as a 6-year-old. She and her brother were walking to school, and she was assaulted and her brother wasn't. So in her little mind, she said, I'm going to be a boy. That will make me safe if I become a boy. And that's how a 6-year-old thinks, right?
Yeah,
and
of
so
course, yeah.
Right. And so in her case, she was blessed to have some sensitive counselors who sat her down and said, oh, honey, that's not what's going on. Now, come on, and kind of talked her off that cliff. So she never went down that whole path, but it gave her a kind of empathy, for one kind of one set of reasons why people might conclude that they were born in the wrong body.
Absolutely.
And all that implies, So what I would say to anybody who's watching this, there are two things you need to say to a child. Number one, no one is born in the wrong body. No one's born in the wrong body. Your body is you. You and your body are one. Nobody's born in the wrong body. And the second thing is, there are lots of ways to be a boy. There are lots of ways to be a girl. if you like something that's not stereotypically boy or stereotypically girl, that doesn't mean that you were born in the wrong body. It doesn't mean that at all, you know. And to slow this whole thing down, but the trans movement, which is being enshrined into law via the Equality Act, a large part of it is funded and driven by pharmaceutical companies. There's no doubt at all. These are the ones paying for the gender clinics. The children's gender clinics are being paid for by people who sell the hormones that they're going to have to be on for the rest of their lives if they're going to live as opposite sex, you know.
Oh, they're making money hand over fist over
it's
this
so
stuff. So of course
sick.
they're it is disgusting. It's child abuse.
It's so sick. Yeah. Yeah. And you know,
child abuse. It's just
and you know, you may have read about because this came out recently. One of the ladies who really tracks the trans issue is a journalist called Abigail Shrier. And somebody came out to her and revealed to her that she was a Planned Parenthood worker, and that at Planned Parenthood, they're giving out cross-sex hormones to teenage girls after a 45-minute appointment.
Whoa.
Planned Parenthood. This is their new cash cow, Matt. This is their cash cow. They make, and it's paid for by Medicaid and I think a lot of them are being paid for by Medicaid, you know, for example. So there's that whole dimension to it. Matter of fact, we knew about this. So Abigail Shrier came out with this. This is the thing. Some of your listeners probably heard about this because I'm sure you have lots of pro-life followers, and your pro-life people, you know, have seen that. You know, yet another star in Planned Parenthood's crown here. You know, you know. I mean, think about it. Giving a 13-year-old girl cross-sex hormones after a 45-minute appointment. I mean, you know. How much screening are you doing?
Well, it's like some of these therapists. It's like after the first time they sit down with a young kid, and I'm talking kids 9 years old. They sit down with them and they're like, "Yeah, let's just put him on hormones."
Yeah, he's trans. This kid's trans. He's trans. Yeah,
no hope for him. You know.
Yeah. Well, no, the only hope. The only hope is this. Oh, they might commit suicide. Anyway. Anyway, we had heard about this prior to Abigail Shrier's revelation, because at our last summit that we had a pro-life activist there who does sidewalk counseling, and we also had some people who track and are, you know, active in dealing with the trans issue too. And he said to us, the pro-life guy said to us, you know, standing outside of Planned Parenthood clinics, we're seeing these girls come in every Friday. They have all the trans appointments scheduled. And so all these girls come in for their hormones on Friday, and our sidewalk counselors don't know what to say to them. Our sidewalk counselors are ready for abortion-minded girls, but they're not ready for the girl who wants to be on testosterone. So we went, we can help you with that, Jim. So seriously, I mean, this is the kind of thing that happens when you put people together. See?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we can help with that. So we created a pamphlet for sidewalk counselors to use.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Right. And so you can go to our little site that we put together, and we did this in cooperation with our friends at the American College of Pediatricians. They check the medical information and stuff, but it's a pamphlet that you could picture a 13 or 14-year-old looking at, you know, so there's no footnotes or whatever. Right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right. but your sidewalk counselors can go to our website. It's called transregret.com. Transregret.com, and you can download this pamphlet and you can print them up, you know, and you can take them with you. And if you know, if you're out at the abortion clinic and a trans-minded person comes up, you can have a conversation starter with that person and use some of your sidewalk counseling skills with that person who nobody's really talking to them. You know, they need this type of encounter. You know, they need somebody to help talk them off the ledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's tough. And I will put that in the show notes, by the way, everybody. I'll put that one, and then the other, I wrote it down, and then the other part, I'll have the Ruth Institute on there too, as well.
Yeah.
With that propaganda. That sounds interesting. I did not know you guys.
Oh, golly. Yeah. We just started. We put up some hilarious things on our Facebook page.
Oh, that is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
But now how much of this, since we're on the Equality Act issue and everything right now, because I do want to touch back. There's another part of the article I want to touch back with you about. But how much of this too is just parents just not knowing. Parents who's when I was younger, it wasn't that long ago. When my child came to me, my youngest at the time, she was 3 years old, and she came to me and her mother, and she's 7 now. So it wasn't that long ago. But she came up to us and she said, "Daddy," and she's very close with me. Like, right. I was able to, the doctor said, "Hey, come on over here. I'll move out of the way. You're going to deliver your child." Right. So her and I have this, it was the only one my wife was able to birth naturally. And her and I have this bond that it's awesome. It's a very, very awesome bond. Not to say I don't love all my children, but her and I just have this unique kind of bond. Yeah. So anyway, she comes up to me and she says, "Daddy, I think I'm a boy." And I said, "Why? Why do you think you're a boy, sweetheart?" She goes, "Well, you're a boy and you get to do cool stuff." And there's the whole reasoning thing right behind it. Right. And I said, "No, sweetheart, girls are really cool. Look at your mom. Look at your older sister. They're girls. They're awesome. Right. The girls are great. They can do all kinds of things." She goes, "You know what, Dad? I think she didn't say, in her 3-year-old mind, she goes, okay, like that makes sense." And she walked away. She never thought about it again. And I just see a lot of parents nowadays, their kid comes to them and there's like 2 reactions. The 3-year-old say, "Dad, 3-year-old girl, I think I'm a boy." "Oh no. Oh no." Like, what do you do? And when really all you have to do is say why. Ask them why. Have them reason it themselves. It just seems to me like it seems to me like parents just, they kind of hear it and they just automatically panic. Well, and that doesn't do anything for kids.
Do you know, that's a really, really good point, Matt. That's a really good point, because parents, your confidence in yourself as a parent is being undermined systematically by the propaganda around us, right?
Oh yeah,
okay,
of course.
Okay, you've just got a little blip there.
No, I know. If it does it again, don't worry. It's just my camera tends to do this weird thing.
Oh, okay.
It's my computer. It's not a,
okay.
Good.
We're still good. Okay.
Yeah, we're fine.
So parents are having their confidence undermined by all the propaganda, and the idea that you can grow up to be, you're a little girl now, but you can grow up to be a boy. Planting that into kids' minds is really not healthy. It's not helpful. Right. And so I think you did exactly the right thing of not panicking. Okay. Same way, if she came to you and said, "Daddy, I think I'm gay." Okay. Don't panic. What do you mean? What do you think? Why do you think that? That's the right question. I think those are the right questions to ask pretty much no matter how old they are. Why do you think that? And what does that mean to you? What are you telling me? Because you don't even know, in their little mind, maybe she's telling you she likes her pants more than she likes her skirt or something. You know what I mean? It doesn't, you don't know what she means,
Or she loves her friend or so. That's another thing too. We've made love so sexual that if anybody even, if you have an inclining to, my kids asked me the other day, can boys have boyfriends? I said, "Well, yeah, we can have boyfriends. Well, they're our friends. They're boys, right?" My kids are so young. They don't understand what girlfriend, boyfriend means and so I'm like, yeah, of course we can. "Well, can you love your boyfriends?" I said, "Yes. I love all my guys that are friends. Absolutely. But I love them differently than I love your mother." That's a whole nother different kind of love. You know what I mean? So we got into this little discussion with a 9 and a 7-year-old. Right. By the end of it, they were like, "Okay, that kind of makes sense." I was like, yeah, there's different levels of that kind of stuff. But
that's right.
We have to have these conversations with our kids. We can't just like run away from them. Right?
No.
Which unfortunately, right. I know a lot of dads that just, they don't want to touch those subjects at all. They don't want to, leave it up to mom, But it's so important for dads, especially with daughters.
It's important for yes, it's important for you. You're important to your daughter in a different way than you're important to your son, but you're important to both of them. What I would say to any married couple, I would say any pair of parents, that as the children age, the father's role becomes more pronounced and more significant. When the kids are babies, they need their mommy, and that primal bond is extremely important. Never in a million years would I underestimate the significance of the mother-child bond. In fact, my first book was about motherhood, Matt. It's called Love and Economics, and I was really trying to convey to women, college educated women, that staying home with your kids is really a socially valuable, intellectually, spiritually meaningful thing to be doing, and for a whole lot of reasons that I had in that book. But as the children age, dad becomes more significant because dad's kind of escorting them out of the home and out of the family and becoming their conduit and their liaison with the world. Here's how you deal with a quarrel. Here's how you deal with a fight. Okay, we're all playing rough and tumble play in the backyard. Somebody gets hurt. The game is over. Now that somebody gets hurt, the game is over. We don't keep piling on the person who got hurt. I mean, that's a very powerful lesson that dads teach every single day without realizing it. If you contrast that, Matt, with what they learn on their video games.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What do they learn on their video games? If you shoot somebody, you get a prize.
No kidding. Oh goodness, I know. And that's a whole other topic for a whole other day.
You know,
I'm trying to find somebody who's big on video games, because I think they're, man, kids got to be. We got to do better with that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but anyway,
that's right.
Yeah, no,
but
absolutely.
My general point is
you get a reward. It's
Yeah. My general point though is that fatherhood is very significant, and this little conversation you have with your child, your experience as a dad is hundreds of those things, thousands of those things over the course of a lifetime, right? Those little encounters where you're building up their sense of identity, their sense of themselves as a man or as a woman. You're building all that up.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Housekeeping. They're banging on my door. Oh my goodness. Everybody, I'm in a hotel. This is
It's nice that they allow the housekeeper to come. The last time I was in a hotel, they wouldn't allow any housekeepers to come by. COVID. Oh,
goodness. Boy, those rooms must have been bad after a while. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of that. Enough of that. Yeah. But anyway, so that's what the Equality Act is very significant. It will undermine a lot of what's left of gender-based protections, gender-based programs. The idea that you treat men and women differently for good reasons, or that girls and boys can be treated differently for good reasons, that's going to be completely shot. It's been under attack for a long time, but this will put the frosting on the cake. And the people who are going to, it's the men who say they're women who are really driving that ship politically. Yeah, it's the men who say they're women. And by the way, I always use that expression, and I'll tell you why. Men who say they're women. I don't use the term trans. I don't use the term gender confused, which some people use. I don't know why they say they're women. Maybe they are confused. Maybe they like being the center of attention. Maybe they get turned on thinking of themselves as a woman. That's an actual thing. It's called autogynephilia. Okay, that's a thing. So I don't know why he says he's a woman, but he says he's a woman. He's a man, but he's still a man. And this is where truth comes in, Matt. This is why making this the year of truth is really important. The truth is, the Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services, the person who's been nominated for that, is a man who says he's a woman. He changed his name. Dr. Richard Levine changed his name to Dr. Rachel Levine. He can change his name to Rachel. That does not make him a woman. He could change his name to Daffy. That would not make him a duck. That's just not how it works.
Yeah.
He's a man.
And I want to let everybody know too, I'm not laughing at these people because I have a lot of compassion. I'm laughing because
I don't. Listen, let me tell you something. I have zero compassion for Richard Levine.
Not him. I'm talking about the normal average. Yeah, I'm talking about the normal average. See what I'm saying? Yeah, okay. No, absolutely. I'm talking about the normal.
Kids, so the confused kids, the people who are being picked on, those kids, people like Richard Levine are hiding behind them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's like true.
You see what I mean?
No, I don't have any compassion for him. Some of the things that have come out of his mouth too, especially when they flat out asked him, like, you're okay with the mutilation of children? And he wouldn't. I would be happy to come down to your office and speak with you on these matters. If I was like, what are you just answer the damn question.
Rand Paul,
of course you're happy with it. I know. I love Rand Paul.
Rand Paul just really let him have it. That was so great.
No, but I'm talking about, because I've known some guys in my military service who had this problem. You know what I mean? And who dealt with this on a very personal level. And some of them came out of it. In fact, once they blocked it from coming through, when Trump put the block on doing any of the surgeries in the military, funny thing is that one of them, he's now, completely, he went and got some help, got some therapy because he couldn't get the surgery now. So he went and got some help, got some therapy, and found a good counselor, and now he's doing great. He's got a girlfriend. He's got a normal romantic relationship. He had to come out of it, right? There was something up there that wasn't right. And that was his case. So I do have compassion for those that deal with this, because I don't know what it's like to wake up every morning and be like, boy, I don't feel right. It's not right here.
Right.
So when I laugh though, the people like Rachel Levine, these people that are using these women's sports to compete, those are the people that I have zero compassion for, because these people know exactly what they're doing and why. That's right. And it's just
right. Yeah, I don't believe all those boys who are winning girls' sports. I don't think they're confused.
No, or the ones that like to go into UFC and beat the crap out of women and break their faces, and it's just absolutely it's astonishing to me, especially because that woman got busted for she got all kinds of lambasted because she said, when he hit me, it felt like a man punched me in the face. Well, because, sweetheart, it was a man that punched you in the face. You know, it's just, it's ridiculous. Anyway.
No, it's horrible. No, it's really horrible. And, and if you think about it, years from now, when we come to our senses, people are going to look back at that and say, okay, a man went into the ring and beat the crap out of a woman, and people paid to watch that, and people cheered. Okay. The gladiator games have nothing on us now. We are now fully into the Roman Empire here.
Yeah, we were okay with it. When we go back and look at this, like, I can't believe that we could ever reconcile these kinds of things. Coming full circle now, because now we're kind of diving in, actually, just kind of a little segue into what you were just saying, though, about, well, actually what we were just saying, when we go back and look at this stuff. You put in your article, we can safely predict that moral relativism as an intellectually respectable philosophy is dead and gone, which I totally agree with, because right now, and you put, and good riddance, right?
Yeah, right. Good riddance.
That's perfect, right? Yeah, because moral relativism, the whole your truth is your truth and my truth is my truth. Values over virtue. Virtues are very, very, very set, very concrete things that we should attain as humans. Values are kind of those things that we can pile on top of virtues, and we have all these other things. So, and we're going to do some, probably, hopefully in the future, talk a little bit more about that. But we've really gotten away from these cold, hard foundations in which to build a good life on. But I love what you said right there, because you really can't, like, right now in our day and age, there's such a divide. And correct me if I'm wrong, you can disagree if you want to as well, but there's such a divide that you can't sit on a fence anymore. You can't really say my truth is my truth and your truth is your truth, because we're literally being forced to pick a side.
Yes.
Right. Hey, because I'm seeing it in the feminist movement right now with what you were just talking about. Whereas before it was, well, your truth is your truth and my truth is my truth. It's okay if you want to be a 6.5 foot tall Asian woman, 80-year-old Asian woman, when really you're a 28-year-old, 5'2" male, white male. It's okay if you guys want to do that, because it's not a big deal. But now that it's infiltrating women's sports, and that, Bruce Jenner got Woman of the Year and all these other things, the truth thing is really starting to rear its ugly head. And even people who are on the left are saying, whoa, wait a minute, we have to stop this. This is getting ridiculous.
Right. And another thing that put it into my mind that moral relativism is on its last legs is COVID. The whole thing with COVID. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, you're in an emergency room. Do you really want to hear this is my truth? No, you want the doctor to tell you the truth. You want to know the truth. What's wrong with me, doc? And what are we going to do about it? You don't want to hear about his truth or her truth or your truth. That's completely beside the point. And I think people have the sense that we've been lied to and manipulated in a lot of ways in that area. And if you were to come out and if somebody could definitively prove this public agency lied to you about X, there would be a lot of really PO'd people. They would not be sitting there saying, "Oh well, that's their truth, whatever." I just don't think that's how it's going to go. And so and I think the people in power are aware of that, and that's why they're trying to paste band-aids over things and blast out so much confusion. Because when people are confused, then they're not confident about the truth. and then they can't defend themselves. If you're confident in the truth, you can defend yourself against all comers,
Yeah.
and I that's what I try to help people develop, is to understand, these ancient truths about marriage and family and human sexuality. They are absolutely defensible. They are the truth. The things people have been telling you are it's a psyop. They're trying to weaken you so that you won't fight, because if you do fight, you will win. I mean, if you have an argument with somebody, if you have a debate with somebody, you're going to win. So the whole mass of propaganda and everything is designed to keep you off the field. It's designed to make you retreat on your own, and that saves them the trouble of having to have an actual argument or fight with you. And that's way better for them, right? That's rules of war right there. It's better to not have to engage than to go fight and win. It's better that the battle never happened, that you take ground without firing a shot. That's better.
Yeah, no kidding. And nowadays it's usually just let's just scream at them until they shut up. That's what I've noticed. And that's the crazy thing. No one, that's straight out of Rules for Radicals.
Yeah.
I've been reading slowly but surely when I get around to it, due to the work and then school. I'm in school again, but I've been slowly reading Alexander Solzhenitsyn's The Gulag Archipelago, and it's a lot. I am amazed at how many people have never heard of this book, never read this book, and it is, if just like 1984, and just like what you're just talking about right now with the propaganda, and it's just literally designed to make other viewpoints completely irrelevant by spouting false facts or facts that are truth, but that are wrapped up in some kind of word manipulation, thought manipulation. And it's incredible how much that book is coming to life right before our eyes, right here in this country. It's amazing.
And when he came to the U.S., he kept trying to tell people, the truth matters, and a lot of Western culture that has lost God. You guys are going to be, you think you're winning the Cold War. You think you're going to win the Cold War. In a way we did, but in a deeper way we didn't. And that's what he was trying to tell people, and that was not welcome. What he had to say.
No, in a deeper way, we the fire blew out, but the coals are still burning, and now there's the wind starting to blow, and it's starting to create another fire.
Yeah, that's very well said. Not too long ago, I interviewed a guy named Ronald Rieschlach on the Dr. J Show. Okay, on my video podcast called the Dr. J Show. And the reason I wanted to interview this guy is that he co-wrote a book called Disinformation. And he co-wrote it with a guy who had defected from Romania. The defector from Romania was the highest ranking intelligence officer in Romania. He was like the spy chief. He was like the equivalent of the top of the KGB equivalent in Romania.
Wow.
And he defected to the U.S., I think during the Reagan administration. And he started explaining to people how they would start disinformation campaigns. And so Ron Rieschlach wrote a book with him on the subject of disinformation. But Ron Rieschlach had written a book about Pius XII and how Pius XII has been defamed. And how could it be that a man could have this reputation as the great savior of the Jews, and then within a generation after his death, he's got this reputation as Hitler's Pope? What in the world happened? And so Ron had gone through all this evidence and stuff, and the Romanian guy had seen something about it, and had said, "Oh, that was one of our jobs. We planted that story. We planted that. That was one of our disinformation campaigns." And so that's I really, this is going to go into our propaganda center, to help people analyze and understand how this is done. But so in the course of this interview, Ron told me that what he learned was there are three things you got to have to make a disinformation campaign go, and one of them is that the source has to be an authoritative source, something that somebody would listen to. So it can't just be Joe Blow. But on the other hand, you have to be able to trace it. You can't be able to trace it back to public documents. So if it's a person's individual diary, you can't really argue with that. If somebody finds a diary that is incriminating, nobody can prove that it was planted by the KGB. because it could have been authentic. But if you're trying to falsify the Census Bureau records or something like that, or birth certificates, that's a whole different, so
Yeah.
you have to cover your tracks by putting out something that can't be falsified. And the story about that one, I'm going a little bit off track here, but I think
That's okay. That's all right.
listeners will be interested in this. He told this story about how the KGB was going to try to, not the KGB, the Polish equivalent of that, was going to try to discredit John Paul when he was still a bishop, I think. So they were going to try to discredit Cardinal Wojtyla. And they had planted a diary of a woman who claimed in this long, detailed diary about how she was having an affair with him, and so on and so forth. And so they had this, they were all set to go with this disinformation campaign. And the guy who was supposed to plant the diary where it was going to be raided later, and they were going to discover this and be all shocked, and, all of this, that whole thing was going to go down. The guy who was supposed to plant the diary, according to Ron, the guy who was supposed to plant the diary got drunk and got picked up for drunk driving and hauled into whatever, and he confessed the whole thing. so the thing never pulled off. They never pulled that off. But the point is that they were replacing personal experience as evidence, as opposed to tangible evidence that would be necessary in a court of law. Something more tangible, something more factual. And our whole way of thinking is that there aren't objective facts. Those objective facts, that's white supremacy to even think about objective facts. Right? I mean, they're literally talking like that now, right?
No, it really is, yeah.
But then you replace those objective facts with somebody's lived experience that you can never refute. Well, now everybody's a sitting duck for disinformation campaigns. Everybody's vulnerable now. So that's why we have to recover a sense of truth, a sense of right and wrong, a sense that there is such a thing as truth, and it's our job to discover it, knowing that we'll be imperfect, and a lot of the time we're not going to find everything, but that doesn't mean there's nothing to be found, and that we get to make stuff up, so I'm just fascinated by that guy, by Ron Reichlach. He's a law professor. You know what he teaches? He teaches evidence.
Oh, he does. Oh, that's awesome. Good.
See, evidence is a class in law school.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a legal system, you have to have rules about evidence, and all that kind of stuff. It's very interesting.
That's awesome.
I'm that is supposed to publish. I don't know when this is going to broadcast, but anyway, by the time most people see this, it'll be out there.
Oh, right on. Very good. Very good. Well, I'll definitely have to, I'll link the Dr. J show in our show notes as well.
Yeah.
I'll make sure I put everything on there. So you're giving me a lot of weaponry here to fight.
Yes.
Good.
I'm telling you, we produce stuff faster than we can promote it. I tell you. So I appreciate
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate you sharing this with your followers, because you have a little niche follower, and then there's other people with a little niche, and other people with a little niche, and that's the way we'll put it together. And hopefully none of us will be so big that they'll think they have to come and stamp us out.
Right on. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
Well,
a lot of little ones. Yeah, I know,
under the
right?
radar.
That's why I keep the listeners low, right? That's awesome. All right. Yeah, I know. No kidding.
Tell your friends, but
yeah, tell your friends, but be quiet about it. One of the last things you put in here was you close with some really cool remarks here. It says, up until now, the enemy is conquered by winning lots of little skirmishes, taking lots of small fields. Most of the time, he was unopposed. No more. Make up your mind to get together with fellow believers and educate yourselves. Speak the truth. Take a stand. How we conduct ourselves as believers today will have far-reaching consequences. Let 2021 be the year of truth. And so I really wanted to take the last few minutes of our podcast to talk about, maybe discuss, or if you have some words of wisdom, especially for our audience like mine, we're just trying to live as good Catholic husbands, Catholic men, Catholic fathers. Where do and where should we start?
Well, I think the very first thing that you should do, especially in the age of COVID, which I have no idea how long the age of COVID is going to go on, but the fact is that the people in power demanded that no one ever get together. So that tells you that getting together is really important. So I would say the first thing you need to do is to put together small groups of people, families to get together. Whatever is prudent for you to do in your local conditions. People are allowed to do different things in different places now. And you may not want to be in complete compliance with all the regulations in your area in this regard. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I am going to tell you that the ability of people to get together and meet face to face is extremely important. Do not underestimate it. If the global ruling class has put this much effort into stopping people from getting together, I think we should get together.
Yeah. Do the opposite of what they tell you.
I'm just going to say, I think we should be getting together. So, and then where you go from there, okay, you're a Catholic men's organization, so you get together and you have your rosary and everybody has a potluck dinner. And maybe you study Ruth Institute materials. Maybe you watch one of our videos. Maybe you have a Bible study. Maybe you do the rosary, whatever it is, but you do something to educate yourselves. And as you do that, it will come into your mind what you need to do locally. Right, because I can't tell you what to do in Spokane or whatever,
Sure.
I don't know what's going on, but I do know that there are problems in pretty much every public school in America. There are problems with sex ed, and sex ed should simply be abolished. It's propaganda. It's all of it. It's propaganda for the sexual revolution.
Washington State sex ed programs appalling. Yeah.
Oh, you guys are world famous.
Homeschool.
For how bad it is. Well, you know what? If you
everybody
have
needs to homeschool.
Matt, I'm going to agree and disagree. If you have small children at home, yes, you got to get them out of the school. No question about it. If you do not have small children at home, if you're grandparents, you need to get down to the school board and fight.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. We can't just fight. We can't just pull everybody out of the problem. We have to start doing something.
Somebody's got to stand. Somebody's got to stand and fight. There's a reason you send the women and children to safety. Okay, that's great. That's important. Fellas, get back out there and fight.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're retired. Right? If you're a retired school teacher, you are exactly the person who should go back in there and fight. They can't fire you anymore now, can they?
No, not all. Well, the other thing too is we have to be prepared to make some sacrifices here. We have to start losing our jobs. We got to be white martyrs. We can't be so scared of, of everything. Now, granted, I mean, obviously, if you're in a position where you don't really have anything else, then sure, you might have to be more prudent than others. But
that's right.
We got to get out there. We got to.
But you can do something. You can do something. Another person I recently interviewed is a guy called Eric Scheidler, whose father was Joseph Scheidler, who founded the Pro-Life Action League in Chicago. It's one of the first and largest pro-life direct action organizations. And Eric on that show just told me the story of how his dad gave up his job and how he kind of morphed from one step to the next until he's full-time all-in pro-life warrior who got sued by the National Organization for Women and had to mortgage his house to pay his legal bills and all the rest of it. Okay, well, that's where you end up.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the meaning of his life. And each one of you have to say, what's the meaning of my life? God put me in this time and this place for a particular reason. He didn't put you in the Middle Ages. He didn't put you in China. He put you here and now. And he did that for a reason. And you got to discern what that reason is and get on with it.
Yeah, I like that. The principle of subsidiarity. You can start off so small and just work your way up. You don't have to go run for president tomorrow. I mean,
no.
But
God help us all. Yeah,
I know, right? But if the principle of subsidiarity, that principle of you start with yourself, moves out to your family, that eventually goes out to the community, to the region, and then out to the state, and then to the it just keeps growing and growing. So, but I like that. Yeah, get with people and start educating small right then and there. That's awesome.
And there's a reason why every totalitarian movement you can think of, they always attack the family. They attack two things. They always attack the church and they always attack the family. So that tells you that the family is really important. If they're all scared of the family, why are they scared? They're scared because of what you just said. That the family is a self-sustaining little society. it can
It's a microcosm. Yep.
it's a it literally is a microcosm, and if the family is intact and the family has some sturdiness to it, it can build a lot of things, and it can sustain itself, and it can recreate itself, and people are loyal within the family. And so that's a loyalty that competes with the totalitarian state or whatever the the big plan is that they're making. You love your
The Great
dad more than
Reset.
yeah, you love your dad more than you love the dear leader or whatever it is, and so
Yeah.
therefore we want you to be mad at your dad all the time. We want your dad to be suspect. We want conflict between the husband and the wife. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the mentality of the totalitarian.
Right on. Well, you've given us a heck of a lot to chew on, and again, yeah, wow, yeah, we got a lot, guys. So, how can people reach you, Dr. J? What's the best way for them to come and find you and to get more information and educate themselves?
Our website is ruthinstitute.org, and we have a very active Facebook page. And we also have a YouTube channel where we upload at least 2 videos every week. So there's plenty of new material and new content there. So any of those places is where you can find us, our message, and find plenty of materials and ways to educate yourself and others.
Excellent. Right on. Well, if you wouldn't mind, would you mind helping me close in prayer? And then we'll do some closing comments and remarks, and then
sure.
we'll be out of here on our way. So let me get the prayer up real quick. St. Joseph, this is what we do here. So we are, oops, I left the banner up. Jeez. All right. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. O St. Joseph, whose protection is so great, so strong, so prompt before the throne of God, we place in you all our interests and desires. O St. Joseph, do assist us by your powerful intercession and obtain from me, from thy divine Son, all spiritual blessings through Jesus Christ our Lord, so that having engaged you below your heavenly power, we may offer our thanksgiving and homage to the most loving of fathers. O St. Joseph, I never weary contemplating thee and Jesus asleep in your arms. I dare not approach while he reposes near your heart. Press him in my name and kiss his fine head for me, and ask him to return the kiss when I draw my dying breath. St. Joseph, patron of departing souls, pray for us.
Amen.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. That's
Amen.
very dear. I love that prayer.
Oh, me too. I absolutely love that prayer. Well, Dr. J, it's been amazing. Again, always a pleasure. I know we had to do this twice, but but it's been this is great. So thank you so much. Actually, I think we covered more this time than we did last time. So that's actually a good thing, I think.
All right. Very well. Thanks a lot, Matt.
Yep, absolutely. You have a good one, and we will maybe see you in the future.
And so long, all you patriarchs. Love you guys.
Right on, right on.